Hello my friends and welcome once again to 7 True Ghost Stories from Reddit. There's nothing like a good ghost story to give you the chills. But what if those stories happen to be true? And they happen to you. Here's 7 true ghost stories from Reddit users. Here's a couple quick stories of disappearing objects that occurred 2 years ago. My friend and I had played a Ouija board in one of those sewer drains a couple weeks before, so I'm thinking something followed me home. It seemed friendly and just wanted to play. One day I was watching TV in my room, lying on the bed, when I got up to do a little picking up around me. I laid the remote on the bed behind me because I'm always losing the darn thing, so I placed it by my pillow, knowing full where it was going to be, and wouldn't have to spend time searching for it. I continued cleaning up the room and turned back to grab the remote when it wasn't where I left it. I knew I had placed it on the bed by the pillow, but it clearly wasn't there. It was one of those huge old DirecTV remotes, so it's pretty hard to miss. I began looking under the pillow, looking under the bed, checking my dresser, nightstand, anywhere else I may have placed it. I never left the room, so I know I couldn't have taken it with me to the bathroom or anything. I started getting aggravated and angrily looked in the drawers and obscure places I knew it couldn't be, but thought it was worth a look. Then I looked back on my bed, and there the remote was, just sitting, just where I left it. I looked around and kind of laughed, but I knew it wasn't there before then. My black cat liked to play with rubber bouncy balls. I had one in particular that we would throw around for a while, and it would always end up getting rolled under the bed, and that was the end of our game. So one night I'm playing with him, throwing the ball around for him, and when he gets bored of it, I placed it on my dresser, behind another object so it can't roll away and get lost again. When I see he's being playful again, I go get the ball, and it's not in the place where I left it. The object I had placed in front of it is still there, so it couldn't have rolled off. I even checked the floor where it would have landed if it did, and there is nothing but some clothes. I start looking under the bed, looking around the dresser, looking everywhere, and it's not there. So by now I've wised up to its tricks, and I say, "All right, where is it?" And I look in its original spot, but it's not there. I look down on the floor, and there it is, sitting on top of the pile of clothes on the ground. Another time, I was taking a daytime nap when I had just opened my eyes to wake up from it. You know how you take a moment to assess where you are and what time of day it is when you first wake up? Well, that's what I was doing when I felt a hot breath on my face. I listened for the air conditioner, but it wasn't on at the moment, and neither was the fan, so I got a little creeped out. Another time I was walking with laundry to my room and putting it all away when I noticed a certain pair of socks were missing. I walked my whole way back to the laundry room to see where they had fallen, but they were nowhere. After a while I stopped and I kind of yelled, "Where is it? I'm not doing this anymore," and looked down, and there the socks were. Nothing happened to me again after that. Hello, my name is Cassie and I work at a deaf school. I work the overnight shift, so that's already a creepy start. There are 2 houses in a building with units that the kids live in, and my job is to keep an eye on them all night and to help get them up and ready for their day in the morning. Now, I do love my job. It's the best one I've had in my 12 years of employment, but one of the houses I work at is a little strange. Since most of the employees here are deaf, they set up sensors that will turn on a light in the middle of the stairwell if the kids come out of their room, so we'll be ready for them and know when they're up. The creepy house had 2 bedrooms downstairs and 3 upstairs. The living room sits in the middle of the 2 floors, so you can see into the kitchen downstairs and see into the hallway upstairs. Since I've been working there, over a year now, I've always noticed that the light goes on a lot, saying someone is downstairs. But currently, we do not have anyone living down there. I've come to work with everything off from the kitchen, and then, halfway through the night, find the fan in the kitchen was turned on. I've heard someone walking around the dining room and kitchen. I've heard a man's voice mumbling something while I was walking up the stairs. I'm always single-staffed when I worked at the house, so hearing things happening is not the most comforting. Tonight, something else happened. I needed to check the children every 15 minutes. When I was checking in on one of the students, I almost freaked out. I opened the door, and on the other side of the bed, I saw 2 red glowing eyes. It was so quick that I was shocked. I just shut the door and walked away, not knowing what I should do. I have tried to communicate with whatever it is here, but it seems like they hide when I try to record anything or use an EVP. It's like the ghost is really shy, or its main goal is just messing with staff all the time. Lately, my coworkers have been getting drawers in the kitchens or windows opening on them, or feel something touch their hair, or see orbs of light. Yesterday, one of the students signed the good morning towards the wall and asked the staff, "Who's the new staff?" I feel like the activity has picked up so much this month. I don't know if it's because of the full moon or if it's the fact that it's October. The ghost hasn't hurt anyone ever. I've heard that if you're not good to the children, it will make you sick. But who could ever be mean to the children? I've been reading this subreddit for a while, and I've been waiting to post this for some time. This happened when I was about 14 years old. It was the middle of the summer, and I had fallen down a hill at camp and damaged a ligament in my right leg, so I was home alone recovering while my parents were at work. One day, at the end of my week of convalescing, I invited my best friend at the time over to have a sleepover. After she arrived, we immediately went to the basement, even though I wasn't supposed to because of my leg, and hung out down there where it was cooler. My parents often didn't have the air conditioner on. Little background about my childhood home. It was a backsplit, meaning that it had 4 levels, of which only took up half the depth of the house. This meant that there were 2 levels of the basement, the finished one, where the computer was, and an unfinished level below that. At some point, we decided that we would check out the unfinished lower basement, which was mostly used for storage. I'll admit this part of the house had always creeped me out. It was dark, dusty, and honestly kind of scary, even now. After about 10 or 20 minutes of exploring the basement without incident, my friend told me that she had to go to the bathroom and went upstairs. Our bathroom was on the top floor of the house. As I said, the lowest part of the basement had always creeped me out, so I went to the upper, better lit part of the basement to wait for her. I sat down on the floor by the computer and had only been there for a moment when I heard a loud bang from the top level of the house. I ran upstairs to see what was going on and found my friend emerging from the bathroom, looking confused. "What happened?" she asked. Shocked, I told her that I'd figured it was her that made the noise. As 14-year-old kids, we probably weren't as careful as we should have been and just began walking into rooms, trying to find the source of the noise. Let me just say here that none of the windows were open, because I've always been afraid that people would break in through the windows if I left them open. So we wandered around, slamming doors shut, trying to find something that sounded close to the bang we heard. Finally, we reached the back bedroom, which served as kind of a library for my parents and their many, many books. There was a large sliding glass door at the back room, which led to the backyard. These doors had a set of hanging blinds on them, which were prone to falling down when touched. However, despite the fact that neither of us had touched the blinds, which had been up when my parents left, they were on the floor. Experimentally, I unlocked the door, which was still locked, and opened it, then slammed it shut. That was the exact sound we had heard. Once again, the door was closed and locked when we found it. I also know that it had been locked when my parents left, because I had checked. There's no way to lock it from the outside, only from the inside. So it couldn't have meant that somebody had broken in, because the door would not have been locked when we found it if that had been the case. We were so afraid that we stayed in my living room for the rest of the day and didn't venture upstairs or downstairs until my dad got home that night. The other day I was talking to this friend who I'm still close with. I asked her if it was her who had slammed the door. She's a dancer, so she knows how to walk quietly. She assured me that it wasn't her and asked it had been me. When I told her that, no, I had been downstairs the entire time, she seemed a little shocked. I think we had each been holding on to the hope that it was the other person playing a prank. So I posted a different story a few weeks ago about my haunted childhood home. This happened a few years ago after the previous story, making me about 16 years old. It was the week before Christmas, and I was home alone while my parents were at work. As I explained in the previous story, my house was a backsplit, meaning that there were 4 levels of which took up the entire half depth of the house. Our TV was in the upper level of the basement, so that's where I usually spent my time. About noon, I decided I wanted a sandwich and went upstairs to the kitchen to make one. I put the toast in the toaster and pulled out a knife and started cutting up vegetables to put in my sandwich. A moment later, my toast was done, so I grabbed a plate and turned around to get it. When I turned back, the knife I had been using was floating above the cutting board at the height of the handles at the cupboard. Note that this was not a small knife. I had been taught how to cut up onions with a specific knife. It was about the biggest one we had, so that was the one I was most comfortable using. I froze and watched as it continued to float, wavering a little in the air before floating back down to the cutting board. I was so scared I ran up to my bedroom and called my best friend, who I talked to until my dad came home. Despite my house being pretty haunted, nothing else floated before this incident or in the 3 years since. It seemed like it was basically an isolated incident. However, it was not the only thing to happen during that winter break. 2 days later, after my mom left for work, I went to the front door to check that it was locked. It was, but the coat closet door was open. Not wanting the cat to get in and knock things over like she's prone to doing, I closed the closet door and went back to watching TV. That afternoon, when I came upstairs to make lunch, I checked that the closet was still closed. It wasn't. Thinking that I was being forgetful, which is a distinct possibility, I closed it again and got on with making lunch. After lunch, I decided to do the dishes. As I was waiting for the sink to fill with water, I checked on the closet door again. It was still open. I closed it again, starting to freak out. Once the dishes were done, I went back downstairs without looking into the front hall. When my dad got home, he asked why I hadn't closed the coat closet. He didn't believe me that I had already closed it multiple times. I didn't push the issue much, since he never really believed me about the house being haunted anyway. That's all the time I have for today, my friends. I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening. I'm Mori. Now, listen to the spooky tunes.